Good day. My name is Natale Di Rubbo. I'm the rulemaking officer in Easa and I'm responsible for the regulation on drones. What is Easa? Easa is an agency established in 2002 to provide a single set of aviation rules across the 32 European countries. These are the 28 countries of the European Union, and in addition we have countries like Iceland, Liechtenstein, Norway and Switzerland. The headquarters of Easa is in Germany, is in Cologne, and in addition to make rules, we also ensure the safety of all aircraft that are designed in Europe and that are built in Europe. We also work globally to ensure the best level of safety protection for EU citizens flying across Europe. We have more than 850 people that is working here, and we are made of experts and passionate about our work to keep all aviation safe. The presentation that I'm providing today is giving an overview of the current regulation that was recently published from the European Commission on the regulation on drones in the open and specific category. So we will see how we developed a risk-based approach, what are the most important elements, especially registration and tools for enforcement authority. Then we will see the open category, specific category, and a quick overlook of what is a certified category. And then lastly, the use space, that is the way the traffic between drones will be managed in the future. Before starting, some definitions. First of all, the terms drones is a term that we normally use in our communication to simplify the way of just talking with the public. But normally we talk about UAS, that are manned aircraft systems. This is the technical terms that includes all kinds of drones that can be either remotely piloted or autonomous, even if autonomous is something that will come in the future. At this moment we are still talking only about remotely piloted aircraft. An important element in our concept is the UAS operator. The UAS operator is the person or the organization that is in charge of the operation. And it can employ several pilots, or it can be also the same person, the operator and the pilot. This is maybe what will happen more for the recreational activity. Maybe in the professional activity we will have an operator and one or more pilots. So there are some specific responsibility for the operator. So the operator is different from the pilot in some cases. The pilot is the person that actually operates the drone and define what is the path and the parameter that the drone is flying. So there are different responsibilities between the operator and the pilot. Another important element is the involved person. Who are the involved person? The involved person are those that during an operation are made aware of what are the risks of the operation. They are informed on what should be the procedures to be used in case there is an emergency. And so they expressly accept to be part of the operation and to be exposed by the drone. So it is important that they expressly accept to be involved. So we will see that there will be different requirements when there are people involved or people not involved. This we will see in my presentation. How we develop the performance and risk-based approach. The big difference between aviation and now this regulation on drones is that not all crashes are catastrophic because we don't have people on board. So we can accept that if the aircraft is flying in an area where there is no risk on third party on ground, if there is a crash, is something that can be acceptable. So we decided to develop three big categories according to the risk of the operation. So we call the first one is open category, that is the lowest risk of operation, where we are using light drones with specific technical requirements and that are very limited in the operation. So in this case, the operator does not need to require an authorization before starting the operation. He can just buy the aircraft, we'll see register himself, and then fly. When instead you want to do some operations that are exceeding the operation in the open category, so in this case, you need to carry out a risk assessment, and we will see how this will work. And the operator needs to ask for an authorization to the competent authority before starting the operation. We have some alleviation, it also we will see in this presentation. Lastly is the certified category. Certified category are those operations that are more similar to the current manned operation. So we are talking about IFR flights, international, or tomorrow flights with passengers on board, where we have a type of risk that is very high. So we want to use an approach that is very similar to the approach that we have today with manned aviation. So you need to have the certificate of the operator, certificate of the drones, so the airworthiness certificate, and the license of the pilot, unless in the future we have some autonomous operations. So the regulation that has been published in June of this year by the European Commission covers only the open and specific category. So you will see that there are two regulations that were published. The first one is the regulation 2019-947 and define the requirements for the operation and for registration. While instead the second regulation 2019-945 define the requirements, the technical requirements for the drones and for the third country operator. The activity for the certified category now is going on here in Easa. We are discussing with experts in order to develop the concept. And by the end of next year, we will publish an NPA, Notice of Proposed Amendment, in which we will include the proposed changes to the full set of regulation. And we are considering to amend all regulations today we have in the manned environment. So from Part 21 for the airworthiness, all the requirements for the continuing airworthiness, all regulations for ops, flight license, and so on. So, but let's see the main elements of the regulation for the open and specific category. The first important thing is that with this regulation, we are trying to have an harmonization of all certificate and operation conducted over Europe. This means that when an operator registers himself or the drone in one country or receive an authorization or a certificate in one country, this is recognized by all the other European countries without the need of have any additional activity to be done. The first important thing is the registration. Now, the first element is registration of the operator, not registration of the drone. We have some specific requirements provided by the basic regulation. Basic regulation is the regulation 1039/2018. That is the regulation that defines the responsibility between the member state and the European Commission. And this is a regulation that was developed by the Parliament, and there is a specific provision defining when an operator needs to register and when a drone needs to register. So in the regulation that the 945 regarding the registration of drones, we just followed what are the requirements provided by the Parliament. So the operator needs to register himself where? In the country of residence or the country of main place of business in case it's an organization, and this will be an online process. So when the operator is operating a drone in the open category, you need to register when the weight of the drone is more than 250 grams, or when the weight is less than 250 grams, but the drone is equipped with a sensor able to capture personal data. So we mean a camera, a audio recorder, so whatever that makes the drone intrusive from a privacy point of view. Or when the drone is a very high-speed drone, so when in case of impact of the drone with a person is able to cause an injury, and we have a threshold in terms of energy transferred, the regulation says 80 joules when the drone is able to transfer to the human body more than an energy impact of 80 joules. And this means, in practical terms, for a drone of 250 grams, when it flies at a speed of more than 100 kilometers per hour. In the specific category, instead, the operator needs to register himself in all cases. We don't have any kind of alleviation. The registration of the drone, instead, when you need to register your drone, according still to the basic regulation, you need to register your drone only when the drone itself is certified, so when it's a certificate of airworthiness. So this means that the requirements for the certification will depend on the risk of the operation. In the open category, for sure, we never require any kind of certification of the drone, so you never need to register your drone. In the certified category, you always need to register the drone because you need to have a certificate of airworthiness. In the specific category, depends on the risk. And this is something that we will see in the course of the presentation. An important element will be how the enforcement authority will be able to verify if I'm flying legal or illegally. So first of all, when I register myself, I will register, I will say, in the country where I'm resident, but this information will be stored in a database that will be shared between the other database in Europe. So we need to have an interoperable and real-time system. This means that when the police will detect my registration number, even if I'm flying in different countries compared where I was registered initially, the police needs to be able to identify my number, interrogate the national database with my number, and even if the information is stored in another database, in real time receive all the information, understand if I'm legal or not. And we defined a task force in Easa to identify what are the minimum requirements for this database in order to ensure this interoperability. The requirements has already been provided to the all member states, and today they are already working on developing this interoperable database. The database will contain all the information for the drone operator and the certified drone when they are registered. The essential elements that the police will use in order to identify my registration number will be a technical requirements that will be imposed on all drones operating in the open category. This is what we call local electronic ID broadcast. So it will be a system that will broadcast some information from the drone. And what are this information? Is the registration number of the operator, the serial number of the drone, the remote pilot position, or if this is not available, the takeoff position of the drone, the current position, its height, and the timestamp, the direction, and the speed of the drone. So this information needs to be detected by a smartphone, by all smartphone, so through an app. And actually, they are not only detectable by the police, should be detectable by all citizens, because in case I see a drone that is flying illegally, maybe I see a drone that is flying in front of my window and is spying me, I need to be able to detect the number of the operator and the data where the aircraft was flying. I'm not able to understand who is the owner of the drone, but I have his number. I can go to the police, then the police can interrogate the database, identify if it was flying legally or not, and then take action. So it actually is similar to what we have today with car plates, where if I see a car doing something illegal, I can still read the plate and then go to the police and give this information. So this will help to identify if someone is legal or illegal, but in addition, we ask also that this registration mark should be added to the drone itself, so in case I see a drone crashed in one place, I can still identify who was the owner of the drone. Another important element is the flexibility provided to the member state, because we know that Europe is a very huge region with different requirements from the northern country to the southern country, and we don't have only to protect the drones from a safety point of view, we also need to protect from a privacy and a security point of view. So the member state needs to be able to identify area where drones can fly or cannot fly to protect maybe the government building or prisons or whatever they think that is important for them. So they can identify geographical zones where drones are forbidden to operate, or where do they need to have a special authorization. And they need to provide this information on a website such that the operator can first of all be informed, but also to be able to download a set of data, a set of maps that can be then installed on the drone itself. Yeah, because on the drone will have a technical requirements providing a geo-awareness system. So these technical requirements will allow the drones to take the data, geographical data of the maps downloaded from the national website and inform the remote pilot when he's approaching an area where the drones was not supposed to operate. So still responsibility is on the remote pilot. So the aircraft will not stop, also will not be prevented to go in this area. So the remote pilot then will know that he's doing something for which, if he has the authorization, it's legal, otherwise it's illegal. In addition to area where drones can fly or where cannot fly, the member states can also identify area that in the map here are showed in green, where the requirements for the open category are alleviated. So this means that we have some specific limitation in the open category, like for example, we cannot fly above 120 meters, not more than drones with 25 kilos, we will see in the next slide. But in this area, the member state can decide that everybody with drones can fly up to, 500 meters, with drones up to 30 kilos. And this is especially useful for model aircraft, because we know that today this is the case in some member states. There are areas where model aircraft can fly with different limitations. So this means that the member state will carry out a risk assessment and will inform the managed aviation that this could be a sort of dangerous areas. Now, let's see the open category. So the open category, I remind, is the lowest risk of operation, and is an operation for which I don't need to have any special authorization before starting my operation. So this, in order to be safe, there are some strict limitations that needs to be followed. First of all, I need to fly in visual line of sight. So this means I need not always be able to see the aircraft where it is, in order to make sure that it does not endanger other traffic or other obstacles that are in the area. Always below 120 meters, and in general, we'd say a drone that is less than 25 kilos. I need to have an age of 16 years, or in some member states can decide to reduce my minimum age to 12 years. But then in this case, this alleviation is only valid in that member state. Still, I can fly under supervision without any kind of age limitation. I cannot carry a dangerous good, no drop material, and I cannot do any autonomous operation. This means that there will always be one remote pilot responsible for the operation. I can still upload some automatic flight plan, so the aircraft can automatically fly from point A to point B, but the remote pilot should always be able to intervene, to monitor the aircraft and intervene in case there is a problem. So within the open category, we identified three subcategories that we call A1, A2, and A3. A1, fly over people, A2, close to people, and A3, far from people. So these are three different risk level category that I can fly according to what kind of drone I have. Now, the main element is identify which drone I'm using. And so there are some very detailed technical requirements that has been defined for different classes of drone. And we decided to verify that the drone comply with the technical requirements, not using our standard way of, say, certified drones, what is now meant in the manned aviation, but using the process of the CE marking. The CE marking is something that is already well established in Europe. All commercial products today that are put on the market, they have a CE marking, and this ensures that the product complies with a minimum set of requirements. So the regulation 945/2019 identify 5 classes of drones and impose that the manufacturer put a label to these drones when they demonstrate compliance with one of these classes. The label will be from C0 to C4. So in the subcategory 1, so fly over people, you can fly over people when you have a drone marked either C0 or C1. C0 is up to 250 grams, C1 is up to 900 grams. Or you can still use home-built drone, so a drone built by yourself, when they are below 250 grams. So in this case, we don't have any special limitation. You can fly mostly everywhere, unless there is a forbidden area as defined by the member states. The important is that you don't fly over open assemblies, so over crowds, let's say over a stadium. If instead you want to do an operation that involved a heavier drone, but you still want to fly in an urban environment, you can use drones with a class mark C2. This is up to 4 kilo. In this case, you can fly up to 5 meters from people if you have if the drone is equipped with a special function that limit the maximum speed of the drone. So in this way you can better control the drone, or 30 meters in case this function is not available. In this case, you cannot fly directly over uninvolved people, and this using the concept I provided you before. So only if there are people that has been informed can be overflown. Otherwise, all people that are uninvolved needs to be at least 5 meters from the drone. And this is something that can be useful for some commercial operation, like for photographer, for example, they can do in urban environment. If instead you want to do an operation with now heavier drone, up to 25 kilos, you can use a drone marked C3 or C4. And so both are for below 25 kilos, or with a drone that is home-built, still with a maximum takeoff of 25 kilos. In this case, you need to fly outside of town, not less than 150 meters from a residential or commercial area, and in an area where there is no one uninvolved, so to make sure that you don't pose a risk to anyone. How I will know what kind of operation I can do when I buy a drone. In all boxes there will be a document, a consumer information, one for each class, that will provide the minimum information of first the requirements for the registration, the training, and then what I can do, what I cannot do. And this will be in a very synthetic way, then you will have a link to the Easa website, to the national website, where to have additional information. Regarding the training, the training that we impose in the open category is an online training followed by an online examination. Only if we want to fly in the category 2, so close to people, then we ask for an additional examination only in an entity recognized by the competent authority. So you physically need to go in a place and show your identity and have this examination. The specific category. So whenever you do an operation that is exceeding the open category, so you are in the specific category. So the main elements now is the risk assessment. The Easa is going to publish in the next days a document. It will be the acceptance of compliance, a guidance material to the regulation 947. That this will include the methodology for conducting the risk assessment. This methodology has been developed by an international group made of representatives for all over the world, from United States, from Asia, from Africa, from Europe, and is called SORA, Specific Operation Risk Assessment. This methodology helps the operator to go through all the elements of an operation and identify all the mitigation in terms of operational limitations, in terms of competency for the pilot and technical requirements of the drone. And then the operator needs to send the package with all the risk assessment and the mitigations to the competent authority that will verify and will give the authorization. Now, since in some cases the risk assessment can be quite a complicated process, especially for the smaller operator, we decide to have some kind of alleviation. The first alleviation is to develop what we call predefined risk assessment. These are some pre-application of the SORA to operations that has been defined by Easa with the support of member states, covering what we think that will be the most common operation in Europe. So we will have a number of predefined risk assessment in the next future that we are going to cover what we expect 90% or more of the common operation. So the predefined risk assessment identify the envelope where the operation can take place, how the SORA is applied to them, and what is this package that the operator needs to prepare in order to be sent to the competent authority. So this way, both the competent authority and the operator will have a quite easy job to do this activity. The first predefined risk assessment also will be published by Easa as an AMC in the next weeks, and several will follow in the next years. In addition to the predefined risk assessment, we are developing what we call standard scenarios. Standard scenarios will be scenarios for covering operations that are at a lower level of risk in the specific category, where we will allow the operator not to ask for an authorization, but just submit a declaration before conducting the operation. So, differently from the predefined risk assessment, in this case, this standard scenario will be very well defined and will be an appendix to the regulation. When I say very well defined, means that they will be written in a sort of prescriptive way without giving much room for interpretation for the operator, because we need to make sure that the operation is safe and the declaration in this case can be enough. So the first two standard scenario has been already developed and will be published by Easa as an opinion for the European Commission, and this will cover the first one will cover an operation in visual line of sight in urban environment up to 25 kilos, below 120 meter. The second one will cover operation beyond visual line of sight in not urban environments, so outside of town, below 120 meter, and at a distance maximum of 2 kilometers from the pilot. And we use in this case as a mitigation visual observers. The proposal also will be sent to the European Commission by the end of this year. We expect the European Commission will discuss with member states next year, and then sometime next year this standard scenario can be adopted and the regulation can be amended. The last possibility for the operator in the specific category is to use what we call LUC, Light UAS Operator Certificate. The operator can voluntarily ask the member state to assess their organization and show that they are able to assess the risk of an operation. So they need to show that they have a structure following the requirements of SMS, Safety Management System, but it's a simplified version of SMS. This is why we call it Light UAS certificate. And the operator then can receive the privilege from the member state to either be able to conduct operation covered by predefined risk assessment without sending a request for authorization, or if they are much mature, they can also carry out the risk assessment of a new operation and self-authorize the operation without providing any information to the competent authority before the operation. However, the competent authority will oversight the operator. All operator in the specific category will be subject to the oversight, so the member state will still be able to verify if the operator is using correctly this feature. Okay, now let's see the timeline. So the regulation entered into force the 1st of July 2019, but actually it will be applicable only in 1 year, in 1st July 2020. This is because we need to give time to the member state to organize themselves, also to the operator. So for this first year, the national regulation will still be applicable. So what will happen in 1st July 2020? First of all, registration. All operators need to register themselves, or the certified drones need to be registered, as I showed in the slide before. And from 1st July 2020, the operation, the specific category, will follow the regulation, the European regulation. This means that the operator needs to carry out risk assessment according to SORA, ask for authorization, and so on. Regarding instead the open category, we do not expect that drones complying with the C marking, the new class of C marking, will be already available starting from next year. So we need to give them additional time to manufacture, to develop compliant drones. It was defined that the full applicability of the open category will be only 1st July 2022, when we expected all drones operating in the open category will be compliant with the C marking. In the first 2 years, we will allow a limited open category. So we will allow to use drones without the C marking, but with different limitations. For example, in the A1, so flying over people, you can do up to 500 grams. In the A2, flying close to people, up to 2 kilos. And A3 will still be 25 kilos. And the competency in this case will be defined by the member state, because also we think that there will need some more time for the member state to develop a training and examination system compliant with the European regulation. The drones non-compliant with the C marking, what will happen from to them after the 1st July 2022? I can still operate them, but I need to operate considering them as a home build. So if they are below 250 grams, they can be operated in A1. If it is above 250 grams, to be operated in the category A3, so outside of town. So a summary of the open and specific category. So first of all, the regulation will start to be applicable by mid-2020 and will be fully applicable by mid-2022. The important element is the registration of the operator and the drones when is required. The open category is characterized by buy the drone, register yourself, train, and then operate without asking for an additional authorization. While instead in the specific category, the main element is the risk assessment, and then I need to ask for an authorization to the competent authority before flying. Will it be important that the pilots are aware of all the risk and they don't pose unnecessary risk to people that are overflown and to third party in general, and everybody should be respectful of privacy and the other people's rights. Before completing, just a quick description of what are the next activity for the certified category. The definition is defined by the regulation and is when the operator, after carrying a risk assessment, verifies that the operation cannot be mitigated using the elements of the specific category. This means that the only way to mitigate the risk, I need to have a certificate of the operator, certificate of airworthiness of the drone, and the license of the pilot, unless the operation is an autonomous operation. So there are already some operations that for sure will follow under the certified category. So, for example, when we fly a drone over an assembly of people with a drone at more than 3 meters, so for example, over a stadium with a large drone, or where we transport people, or where the drone is carrying dangerous goods in a way that is not the case where the dangerous good is included, is not protected in case of crash. So if in case of crash I can demonstrate that dangerous goods will be contained, then I can do the operation in the specific category. Otherwise, the operation is classified in the certified category. So for this kind of operation, the concept is under development, and we are developing amendments to all set of the aviation regulation that today are on the manned aircraft, in order to accommodate the peculiarity of drones, and the proposal will be provided by the end of next year. Last, the essential elements that also will be important when we will have a large number of activities, especially in the urban environment, will be how to regulate the traffic. We cannot use the normal traffic management we have today for manned aviation because we are talking about aircraft where most of the interaction with the pilot will be always less and less, and this will be also some urban environment. So we need to have something new. So we are developing a new regulation defining what we call U-space. That is an airspace volume that will be designated by the member state where some service are provided. So what kind of service? Well, there will be a minimum service that will be the identification, the geo-awareness, and the traffic information. And this will ensure that all traffic that will happen in the area covered by the U-space will be safe. So the regulation will identify the minimum set of service, but also the responsibility for the operators, for drone operators, but also the responsibility for the service provider, the responsibility of the NAA, and to make sure that there will be an interoperability between the services provided in the different countries of our Europe. The regulation is now in the final phase, will be consulted in the month of October, and the opinion also from Easa will be provided by the European Commission by the end of this year, and together with the regulation for the standard scenario, we expect the European Commission will discuss this regulation with the member state in the course of next year, and then it can be adopted. So this provides the elements of the activity that has been conducted so far at the European level and what is going to happen in the next years. And if you have any questions, you can ask either to Easa, we will be happy to provide you information, or to your point of contact in the member state. Have a nice day.